Okay, hello, G-Man 3B. Welcome along to another 3B buffet. Week 4 is done. It's Friday again when I'm recording this, so again, a little later than I'd like, but work has fundamentally been hammering me this week, which is one of those things. So, unfortunately, I don't want you guys to feel like you're getting shortchanged on this. So I'm doing my best to make sure that at least we get something out every week, but a little busy. And obviously we're still just about getting over the whole illness thing. So it's not been an ideal start, but anyway, here we are. Week 4 is done. And let's be honest, I'm still in better health than half of your teams, aren't I? So on that subject, performance of the week, it will probably be of little surprise for you to hear, is, it's Zunk. Gorkacidal tendencies, running out 3-0 winners against Zmarji Severa by largely, you know that thing with Norse where either, a Norse team step onto the field and you kind of know that either you'll die or they'll die or you'll both die. Well, they died. The Norse died. Something like 8 casualties they suffered. And it was 3-0. To Gorkacidal tendencies in the end. And we talked at the start of the season, didn't we, about Zunk kind of being in development mode and wanting to generate quite a bit of SPP on this team. Well, that's how you do it. Murder some AV7 teams. So, no surprise there to see Zunk pick up the performance of the week. And also, the player of the week as well. It's a double whammy for him because Ronin, however you pronounce that, 10 SPP, not including the MVP for him this week. And that came about from 2 touchdowns and 2 casualties, which is certainly very, very good going. Excuse me. That'll happen occasionally. The cough hasn't quite left me. Just a great week for Zunk all around. And he did actually message me to ask me to mention that T-Cold took a right Dyson basically, but was a real trooper about it. So that's all you can really do, isn't it? I mean, we've all had those games where everything just goes wrong, the whole team dies and whatever. But T-Code a bloody good sport about it, and we'll hope he'll be back stronger next week. Well, we almost all hope that perhaps his next opponent will hope that he just takes one week more of bad dice and then is back to normal. So what happened elsewhere? Well, this happened elsewhere. Thermonuclear Pom had a week off. They got a 1-0 win over the admin bye week. Congratulations to them. And their SPP all landed on a Hobgoblin, really. So they've managed to level one of their Hobgoblins. Whether Calcium will class that, as useful or not, I don't know. But it was a rookie Hobgoblin that got 8 of the 13 SPP that you get for the bye week. So he has leveled up and got blocks, so hooray. Aren't we all delighted with that? Stuff from my fridge continue to suffer, unfortunately. They're continuing to go off, aren't they? 2-0 against the high-flying Maze of Torment. So another good result for Witchfinder this week. Who just continues apace, doesn't he, in his first 4 weeks of the season. Although did lose last week, but back on form. With a 2-0 win there. Very, very comfortable result in the end. Dusseldorf Rhein-Fire, 2-0 winners against Umweltschützerinnen. It all started very well for the Amazons, and the wheels have kind of fallen off for JCAN in the past couple of weeks. Although it must be said that the division overall, we'll talk about it in a bit, but the division is ludicrously close. So JCAN, of course, was in the top 2 in the first couple of weeks, and 2 defeats now sees him in, 11th, to put it bluntly. So it's very, very close. But finally, it's nice to have a good news story for Dusseldorf Rheinfire, because, of course, they made the Challengers Cup last season and kind of came into this expecting them to be quite strong, and they've had an awful start, just in terms of dead things and all sorts of things going wrong, bad results, and not being able to develop any players before they were killed. So a good news story for them. The bye week last week has obviously done them good, and they are back with a bang this week, aren't they? So speaking of a bang, Grail Knights Cavalry banged up some orcs, didn't they? So the Happy Sons going down 2-1 to the Murder Bretts, as they've kind of affectionately been nicknamed. And I mean, funny, but for a team that was supposed to struggle, they aren't half going well. Into the top 3 now are Grail Knights Cavalry with that result. So definitely a team to watch. It's all working out so far, isn't it? And this Murder Brett approach is working, and no one's really sussed out how to properly handle it in the past couple of weeks, especially since the two blitzers have picked up palm and jump up and everything respectively. They're really going from strength to strength, the blitzers now. Bringing in lots and lots of casualties and lots of pain, using bribes and fouls and all sorts. So it's working out for Arcani, you have to say, which is good. It shows that you can compete, even if you've got the quote-unquote the worst team in the division. Speaking of the worst team in the division, it's a bit harsh on Earth40, but they were bottom of the table bar the bye week. But a first win for the Bitten Heroes, 3-1 against the division-leading previously Third Guardians. So, that's a good result for the Vamps, and the Third Guardians, who'd previously only taken 1 casualty all season, increased that 6-fold. They took 5 casualties this week, took a real battering. So having gone through all the chorfs and all the horrible things in the first few weeks and come out of it unscathed, Vampires knocked them sideways and won that game 3-1. So there you go. That's a good result for them. It keeps them in touch. They're still, unfortunately, with all the other results, bottom of the table again, bar on the bye week, but keeps them in touch. Means that the Vampires aren't cut adrift in the division. That's important. Draw specialists, the sit down boys, have drawn again. Of course they have, but at this point are now the only undefeated team in the division. With a 1-3-0 record. So it's one of those things, isn't it? If you can't win, don't lose. I obviously subscribe to that, as we all know. But yeah, so it's a 1-1 draw against the Greenhorns. The Greenhorns, the Chorfs, haven't really got motoring yet this season. It's been a bit of a stuttering start for them. And another draw means that they're sort of languishing towards the bottom end of the table after the early part of the season. And finally, as we saw, Gorkocidal tendencies demolishing Zmaji Severa 3-0 this week. It's a good result for Zunk. And yeah, it's also pushed the Orcs. Again, what was meant to be a development season, well, in this early stage, they're in the playoff and Challengers Cup places. And that's not bad going. And of course, it does wonders for the touchdown difference as well, the 3-0 win. He was previously at 0 before this weekend, is now at +3, and with touchdown difference being the primary tiebreaker in the division, Zunk only behind the Necro now on that count. And what is most teams actually on 0 or sort of -1 touchdown difference. It's kind of the Necro and the Orcs now who are running away with that. So, it's a good place to be. That gives you the tie-break advantage, doesn't it? So, that's exactly what you want. If you get the chance to run up that big score because you've caused lots of casualties, well, that's exactly what you should do. Okay, so, close your eyes, Zmaji Severa and others. It's time for the injury report. Doesn't make pretty reading for anyone this week. A new season best from anyone. Most damage suffered. Zmaji Severa taking 8 casualties this week. 7 of them caused by the Orcs and 1 of them caused by the floor, presumably. 4 teams suffering 5 casualties this week, which is some going. I don't even have a graphic for 4 teams, so we've just had to sort of phone it in. Third Guardians, Bitten Heroes, the Happy Sons, and the sit-down boys all taking 5 casualties apiece this week. And that opens up room for stuff from my fridge, bless them, to still be in, well, it's not really the top 3 as much as the top 6 for this week. But 4 casualties suffered for the Nurgle adds to their ongoing pain in the most casualties suffered stakes, as you can see in the bottom right there. The sit-down boys, the Pro Elves, of course, the lowest armour, and kind of, because they're not Norse, the weakest team in the division, and it's proving to be the case, as they comfortably lead the way in most casualties suffered. Stuff from my fridge, who continue to just take a battering. They faced a Necro this week, which is, of course, another Claw team, and more damage suffered there. They've taken an armour bust on a guard Rotter who hasn't been fired yet, but that's a decision to make on that one. And then 4 teams on 13 casualties suffered for the season. That's the Greenhorns, Umveltschützerinnen, the Amazons, the Happy Sons, who took 5 this week, and Bitten Heroes as well, all on 13 casualties suffered this season. And as you can see, it has been Maze of Torment and the Third Guardian sort of neck and neck at the top of the casualties caused column. But not anymore, because Zunk has stepped up and said, I'm having that. And with 7 casualties caused this week, he finds himself up and clear now at the top of the casualties caused column on the injury report, with 15. So he had 8 before this week. He got another 7, so pretty much doubled his score and moves on to 15. Elsewhere, the key injuries column or section doesn't make good reading for the Greenhorns, because normally a movement bust wouldn't be the end of the world, but a movement bust on your designated ball carrier, who's also strength 4, that's not good. You don't want movement 5 ball carriers if you can help it, because that puts them in the Orc Thrower territory. And we all know Orc Throwers are kind of rubbish. We don't want to be that slow. So decision to be made for Trainrar now as to whether he keeps Hohenthaler around. That's a very, very good ball carrier prior to the movement bust. It's one of those where you can sort of keep him around, but you're going to need a GFI more often than you'd like to score. And that, it just makes your life that little bit more difficult. So it'll be interesting to see whether he keeps that player around. Elsewhere, the Happy Sons, Ugrath Gouge Brains is dead. And that's a block guard, stand firm, Black Orc. And that is just, that's just bad news. And for, the neutral, and for, of course, everyone else in the division, it's fine. But for anyone who's already played against the Orcs when they had that player. And of course, for the Orcs themselves, that's a nasty piece to lose. Black Orcs, very, very slow to level, and block guard stand firm on them is just really, really good. Newsflash, would you believe it? So losing one of them to a death is, well, it sucks. It really, really does. So it'll be a long time to get him replaced up to a player of similar competency. Elsewhere, we had a dead Amazon catcher who just had blocks, so not the end of the world. We got another dead loner, of course. You can see the dead loner count has ticked to 4. So you guys are keeping it going, 1 per week. We like to see that. I did actually check back to see if I had a dead loner count from a previous recap, and I didn't. And by I didn't, it wasn't an obvious spot. And I don't know about you, but I find it quite difficult to listen to myself talk for 52 minutes, which was the length of that final end of season wrap-up recap. Just to find out one little bit of information. So I haven't done it, unfortunately. So that remains on the to-do list. Any volunteers who've got an hour spare, feel free. But I might get there by the end of the season. But anyway, your dead loan account is at 4. And keeping that going with 1 per week. So well done, everyone. The dead loaner this week, by the way, I did check it out. I think it was... hang on, what game was it from? I think it was it a Vampire Thrall that died? No, it wasn't a Vampire Thrall that died. We did have a dead Skink in that game, so it's a dead... Rick Reckless is dead. Not the streamer, I hesitate to point out. He's absolutely fine. But it was for the sit-down boys. Dead loner for the Pro Elves, who also got the MVP. Turin Wernerseer. Don't remember the name, because he's dead. But did steal the MVP as well, just to sort of vacuum that 5 SPP into oblivion. So not good news for Lord Brainlord there. Right, development report. No surprises to see that Gorkocidal Tendencies have won this again for the most SPP gained this week. 34 is by some distance a divisional record for the season. The previous best that we had in any other week was 22, which was also matched. No, sorry, I'm wrong. That's 23 by the Grail Knights Cavalry. So we've smashed that by 11, which is more than some teams got this week. In fact, there was 3 teams this week who got 11 or less SPP. So Zonk absolutely hoovering up the development in this early part of the season. And as you can see, it's put him to joint first place of the most SPP gained across the whole season now. Both him and Maze of Torment on what you would describe as a nice 69 SPP gained all of this season. And yeah, Zonk was previously, he was only on 35 for the whole season. He got 34 this week. So it has managed to double his entire SPP haul for the whole season against poor old T-Cold and his Norse. So that's some going, Zonk. Well done. You'll take that. I imagine the team is looking a little healthier than it was beforehand. And even if you don't level those players, you know, having one game to push them part of the way towards another level is just good news. Bitten Heroes have not been on this list yet because they also pretty much doubled their SPP haul for the whole season. They had 24 for the whole season before they came up against the previously indestructible Lizards, and they kind of destructed them, or destroyed them, if you like, in that 3-1 win. 22 SPP for the Bitten Heroes in that 3-1 victory. And kind of spread out across the team as well. Batman returns with 2 touchdowns. He's 6 SPP, so a couple more touchdowns away from a level on that plus movement Blodge Vampire. And we got a touchdown for a Thrall as well on the Wrestle, Kick, Fend, Jack of all trades, Thrall, Ruby Rhodes. So there you go. Grail Knights Cavalry continuing their murder fest. They picked up 20 SPP and 6 of that went to King Gaston. So the Pommer continuing apace with the damage output. You have to say he picked up 3 casualties against Orcs, which is no easy feat. You have to say with the armor value 9. But yeah, that's another 20 SPP for the quote-unquote, as we said at the start of the season, worst team in the division. But they're probably not the worst team in the division by this point, developing quite nicely and picking up some good results. Most SPP gained, as we said, joint first place, Maze of Torment and Gorka's Idle Tendencies. Third Guardians remain in third because they did pick up a half-decent haul this week of 14 SPP, but that's their lowest output for the season. So, yeah, that shows how good a season Morplavac's been having. In terms of most SPP lost, I mentioned that dead Amazon catcher. Well, Umvelt shoots a run and move back to the top of that leaderboard. Ahead of stuff from my fridge, they'd be back up there if they fired the guard Rotter, because he has some SPP, but they haven't fired him yet, so I can't put him on the list. But yeah, Umvelt shoots a run in that 2-0 defeat to the Dark Elves, losing a block catcher who had 12 SPP, and that was enough to put them back to the top of this particular leaderboard. Smargy Severa up to third, all 58 of theirs coming this week. They'd previously lost nothing permanently. But a strength bust on a Mighty Blow Berserker is generally not good for their career prospects, you have to say. And a dead guard lineman as well. Guard on lineman when they've already got block as standard is really good. But unfortunately he's dead. The Berserker's been replaced as well. So 58 SPP down the drain for the Norse in what just has to go down. It's a terrible week for them. Key levels. We can see the Amazons do have some good news. So Rosalie Barrow Edge, the plus strength, plus movement brackets, also minus movement. Blitzer. So 30k of blow on that, but does have stand firm. So strength 4, blodge, guard, stand firm is just really, really good on your Amazon blitzers, and that makes that a real pain to deal with. And to be honest, there wasn't that much else in the way of levels this week overall. Lots of linemen and zombies leveling up. So the most interesting one I picked out is Guard on the Dark Elves. So more good news for Dusseldorf Rheinfire. Fan Detain, the previously rookie, has leveled, rolled a double and picked up Guard. So more Guard on Elf teams is a good thing, isn't it? So that's good news for Siggy Niggy as we go into week 5. Which we'll get on to very shortly. Quick talk about the league table. We'll leave the development report up for the time being, but there's already been a week 5 game played, so we'll not spoil that for those who are watching this recap series through. So it is the Necro top of the table still with 9 points. But then how is this for the chasing pack? They've got a 2-point gap over everybody else after week 4. But then we have Gorkacidal Tendencies on 7, Grail Knights Cavalry on 7, Third Guardians on 7, Sit Down Boys on 6 points, Thermonuclear Pom on 6 points, Dusseldorf Rheinfire on 6 points, Stuff from My Fridge on 6 points, The Happy Sons on 6 points, Zmarji Severa on 6 points, and Umveltschützerinnen on 6 points. So that right there is 1 point separating second from 11th place. We have 6 teams on 2-0-2 records, 3 teams on 2-1-1 records, and the outlier are the Pro Elves, who are 1-3-0. At the bottom of the league are the Greenhorns and Bitten Heroes on 1-1-2. They're on 4, and are only 5 points off the top and 3 points off second place. So they're 1 win behind second place, 40, just by being bottom of the league. It is ludicrously close after 4 weeks, and of course there's a long way to go for this to play out. But there's not really anything in the way of runaway leaders, or the league table's kind of being split into a strong half and a bottom half. Anyone can beat anyone, it seems. So every week, every match, something important to play for. And on that subject, here are your week 5 fixtures. Well, it's good news for the Happy Sons, who, after the beating they took at the hands of Grail Knights Cavalry, get a week off against the admin bye week to recover. They will be hoping that some of that SPP lands on Black Orcs, because of course they need to replace one. They have a new one, Large Larry. So in an ideal world, one or both of the MVPs will go on a Large Larry, and he'll manage to level up quickly, or at least get some SPP on him, because we've got work to do to get that thing leveled into block, and then into guard, and then into wherever we go from there. Yeah, so good news that he's got the week off at least to recover. Third Guardians versus Umveltschützerinnen is the game that has already been played, so no spoilers there. The Greenhorns versus Maze of Torment. Well, the Greenhorns have kind of struggled, haven't they? They are one of the bottom 2 in 12th, although they have won 1 and drawn 1 out of their 4 games, which isn't really bad. But they're up against the top of the table, Necro, with that Strength 5 Werewolf and the Claw Pommer. And we saw how that Necro minced through the Nurgle on their way to a 2-0 win this week. And when it's hard to bet against them doing that again. So my money this week on Maze of Torment to pick up a win there. Of course, the Chorfs missing with the movement bust, they're missing their ball carrier either way. And that just has to be good news for Maze of Torment there. Although you might see the Greenhorns pick up something in the way of lots of bribes and hope to maybe foul their way to victory. But against a regen team, it's not guaranteed that that's going to work. Zmarji Severa, off the back of the brutal suffering they took at the hands of the Orcs this week, are back in action against Chorfs, who had the week off last week. So the Chorfs are fighting fit, and the Norse have to go through Thermonuclear Pom this week. I think my money would be on the Chorfs to continue to do more damage to the Norse here, especially considering the Norse have lost one of their Mighty Blow Berserkers. So there's a lot of pressure now on Zlati Zmarj, who, to be fair to him, is Strength 4 Pom and Juggernaut. So plenty to work with there. But a lot of pressure on him to get the job done this week. So my money is probably on the Chorfs to win this one through attrition. Gorkacidal Tendencies in good form up against the ever-suffering Stuff from My Fridge. Well, that is a tough one to call, isn't it? Because, of course, if the Nurgle Claw fires, then it could be the Orcs that suffer this week. I think we'll probably back a draw in this one between Zunk and Gingerwolf. Orc versus Nurgle has all the makings of one of those slow grind games, doesn't it? So we'll back the draw in this particular fixture. We've got one of the rivalries this week. The 2 elf teams face off. So a chance for bragging rights amongst the Agi 4 teams here. As the Sit Down Boys, undefeated so far, take on Dusseldorf Rheinfire. Well, when Lord Brainlord's in action, much like myself, it's very difficult to back against a draw. So you could see this one finishing 2-2. Or it depends if they go for the score fest. One of them might nick it either way. Very tough one to call. So we'll sit on the fence. I will sit on the fence and back the draw here in this one. And the final game of the week is really, really interesting, actually. Because the Bitten Heroes take on Grail Knights Cavalry. So that's lots of armor value 7 for the Pom Bretonnian Blitzer to hit. But of course, the strength 4 Vamps, the Bretts might not have a lot of ways to deal with all of the strength 4. Although, to be fair to them, they've got 2 tackle blitzers. They've got a lot of guard and wrestles. So actually, the Vamps might find it a little difficult to keep the Vamps. The Vampires might find it difficult to keep the Vampire positionals on their feet, is what I'm trying to say there. They are missing a Blodgestep Blitzer, Grail Knights Cavalry. But that might work to their favour if they can pick up some inducements against Bitten Heroes. And I'm actually going to back another Bretonnian victory here. They're at 1750. Well, they're actually at 1600 for this week. Up against 1960. So there's all sorts that can happen with that sort of level of inducements. Maybe lots of bribes and a wizard. Might even go the Griff Oberwald route. Just to see if that proves fruitful. But I'm going to back Arcani to pick up another win here. Because I think he's going well with this Brett team. And we'll see how he can do. Alright guys, so that will wrap it up for another week. Week 5 will hopefully be a trigger point in the season where we can start to look back on a few more interesting bits and pieces of information. But I can't promise anything yet. Until then, good luck to everyone who still has to play this week. And we will be back hopefully before Friday, fingers crossed, for your Week 5 recap. Cheers.